Welcome to Chapter 8, Ethics and Technology. We will be reviewing the ethical ramifications of recent advances in technology, look at the opposing employer and employee views of privacy at work, and look at an organization's employee surveillance capabilities. Since there are so many privacy issues that have arisen around the implementation of technology, it is no particular surprise that this chapter starts with this quote from George Orwell's novel 1984. Big Brother is watching you. Obviously, there are a lot of advantages to technology in the workplace, and I'm sure that you are familiar with all of these. The intranet, which is the company's internal website containing information for employee access only. The extranet, which is a private piece of a company's intranet available to customers and/or vendor partners on the basis of a secured password. And telecommuting, the ability to work outside of the office and log into your company network. However, with the implementation of these wonderful advances and promises of improved productivity and cost savings, there are very real concerns over the loss of privacy in two key areas. Companies have the ability to send customer personal data anywhere in the world to take advantage of lower labor costs. And of course, employee monitoring. Employers now have the capability of monitoring every email you send and every website you visit to make sure you are being productive. Of course, there are two sides to this privacy issue. As an employee of the organization, your allotted shift or normal work period is at the discretion of the company. Other than lunch and any scheduled breaks, all of your activity should be work-related, and any monitoring of that activity should not be regarded as infringement of your privacy. If you want to do something in private, don't do it at work. And it is part of the organization's obligation to its stakeholders to operate as efficiently as possible, so it must ensure that resources are being used appropriately. Naturally, this would be the employer's position. On the other side, as an employee, you probably feel that my employment agreement should not intrude upon my civil rights as an individual. I am an employee, not a servant. I should be notified of any electronic surveillance and the purpose of that surveillance. The actions of a small number of employees in breaking company rules should not be used as a justification to take away everyone's civil rights. And electronic monitoring implies that we can't be trusted to do our jobs. And if you can't trust us, why are you employing us in the first place? Resolving these two positions has proven to be difficult for two reasons. First, with the ongoing advancements in technology, it is increasingly difficult to figure out where work ends and your personal life begins. Second, the willingness to compromise rises or falls in direct relation to the prevailing job market. So when are you at work? Computer technology allows the capability of telecommuting, working from anywhere by logging into your company's network remotely. So now employee availability is slowly being defined as accessibility. With the arrival of the BlackBerry and the iPhone, employees can be available to their boss 24/7, unless they turn it off. So if you are available to your boss at any time, doesn't it also mean that you can take care of personal needs during working hours? If you worked half the night on an important presentation, shouldn't you be able to make a dentist appointment during working hours and not be considered goofing off? Many of you may be right in the middle of this quandary, and there is no easy answer. If employee rights are recognized in this argument, employees should give their consent to be monitored by all this technology. However, the state of the job market will create a distinction between two types of consent, thin and thick. If the job market is tough and very few or no jobs are available, employees' consent to be monitored is described as thin. If an employee receives formal notification that the company will be monitoring all email and web activity, either at the time of hire or during employment, and it is made clear in that notification that his or her continued employment with the company will be dependent on the employee's agreement to abide by that monitoring, then the employee may be said to have given thin consent. In other words, there are two options: agree to the monitoring or pursue other employment opportunities. If, on the other hand, jobs are plentiful and very easy to find, employee consent to be monitored is described as thick. If employment conditions are at the other end of the scale, jobs are plentiful and the employee would have no difficulty in finding another position, then the consent given to the monitoring can be classified as thick, since the employee has a realistic alternative if he or she finds the policy to be unacceptable. Now, these issues of consent are very theoretical and abstract. In the end, if you are uncomfortable with the level of monitoring your company is doing, if you can find another job, you will leave. And if you can't, you'll just make the best of it. While employers may be able to monitor keystrokes, it is usually the communication sent or received in the computer that do the most harm. The text on page 159 gives several examples of instant messages, emails, or blogs that cause serious embarrassment or damage to the company. There can be offensive email postings, viewing inappropriate websites, and damage from electronic trail of emails. With the immediate nature of internet communication and the damage that evidence gathered from electronic emails can do, it is easy to understand why employers are so concerned about the activities of their employees. Vicarious liability is a legal concept that means that a party may be held responsible for injury or damage when in reality they were not actively involved in the incident. Parties may be charged with vicarious liability are generally in a supervisory role over the person or parties personally responsible for the injury. The implication of vicarious liability are that the party charged is responsible for the actions of their subordinates. In other words, your boss is responsible. Even if you accidentally forward critical communication about your coworkers and that causes harm to them, your boss can be held liable. Scary, huh? If you're a boss. Cyber liability is just a logical extension of vicarious liability to internet communication, a legal concept that employers can be held liable for the actions of their employees in their internet communications to the same degree as if those employees had written those communications on company letterhead. The top categories of litigation include discrimination, harassment including obscenity and pornography, defamation and libel, information leaks, and spam. If we acknowledge the liabilities employers face as a result of their employees' actions, does that justify monitoring of employee actions that might place the company at risk? You will be asked to consider this in the assignment for this chapter. The Computer Ethics Institute, and yes, there is a Computer Ethics Institute, has developed 10 Commandments of Computer Ethics. As we read through them, they seem to make a lot of sense. Do not use a computer to harm other people. Do not interfere with other people's computer work. Do not snoop around in other people's computer files. Do not use a computer to steal. Do not use a computer to bear false witness. Do not copy or use proprietary software for which you have not paid. Do not use other people's computer resources without authorization or proper compensation. Do not appropriate other people's intellectual output. Think about social consequences of the program you are writing or the system you are designing, and always use a computer in ways that ensure consideration and respect for your fellow humans. The discussion about ethics and the use of communications will continue. Communications and computers, will continue. While constant employee surveillance appears to escalate stress in the workplace, it may be necessary to protect the business. Our text mentions very invasive technologies like keystroke loggers, phone monitoring, and video surveillance. Is it necessary to protect the company stakeholders to this extent? We know the debate will continue. Well, that is Chapter 8. Not a lot of answers, but a lot of issues to think about. As always, if you have questions, you can email me or post on our Questions, Issues, and Concerns discussion forum. I'll be back for Chapter 9.